NFL season, and we have a plethora of NBA news. We do, but that's every day, Brandon. That's not news. That's every single day.
Wild, you got to tighten
what
the
isn't
tie
every single day?
Wilds has to tighten his tie a little bit if he wants to go fully daft. Sorry, Jenna.
Sorry,
Jenna's telling us what's on the show. We're doing Project Runway.
You guys want to go fashion? I'm totally ready to take that in. But why don't we table that for just a second? Because of this blockbuster trade. It was huge. It got our attention yesterday. Russell Westbrook to the Wizards for John Wall and a first-round pick. I think it surprised a lot of people, but should it have? The Westbrook-Harden duo didn't work, and so now Russ joins his third team in as many seasons. For John Wall, he hasn't played since December 26, 2018, almost 2 years ago. So a chance for a fresh start for him as Harden's running mate now. Let the reaction begin. Nick, who are the winners and losers of this trade?
All right, I'm going to have, I think, an unpopular and certainly out of the mainstream opinion on this. I actually like this trade for both teams. I think both teams were in a spot where they knew where we are right now, we're kind of stuck. The Wizards needed to hand the car keys to Bradley Beal, and they understood John Wall has literally not a day in his basketball life played a game where he wasn't the leader and best player on a team. So coming back from the Achilles 2 years removed, when Beal is just coming off a near all-NBA season where he averaged 30 points a game, it needed to be his team, his being Bradley Beal's. And that's tough when John Wall, who had always been the big brother figure in that relationship, comes back and says, hey, before I popped my Achilles and had my heel surgery, I was an all-NBA caliber player myself. So they needed to make this move. And for the Rockets, they had to shake the snow globe once again as they go through rotating list of guys who once upon a time were top 10 players in the league to see if they can fit alongside James Harden. Dwight Howard didn't fit, didn't like it that much. Chris Paul actually really did fit. They almost won a championship, but that relationship soured. Russell Westbrook, it took a year, and it's like, we love each other, hang out, maybe barbecue together post-COVID, but we probably shouldn't be playing together. So now they take on John Wall. And I think the Rockets will be interesting. They added Christian Wood. We'll see what Wall looks like post-Achilles. And the Wizards, they already have the fastest player in the league in Ish Smith. They drafted Deni Avdija, who could have gone second in the draft, ended up going ninth. They bring back Bertans. We mentioned Beal's coming off his best season. And Russ, before the stoppage, was playing good basketball. So, Brandon, neither of these are championship teams. I do believe they are both now firmly playoff teams. And I like it for both sides.
There you go. You said it. They're no contender. This is comical, Nick. When this came out, I'm like, why? When I see superstar athletes getting shopped or traded and moves like this happen, the first thing I think about, how does it make the team better to win a championship? This is a lose-lose situation. It's a simple wash. Like, look at this. Now, Houston Rockets, they're stuck with John Wall. Let's say he balls, he doesn't ball. But you're stuck with him for 3 years, guaranteed. How does he make your team better? I just don't see it. I don't understand it. Maybe Russ and Bill's a better fit than Bill and Wall, but how does this make you better? Now, I can get a player. Let's look at it from a player's perspective. I can understand a player going to a losing situation or a situation where you're not going to win, or you feel like you're not that last piece to make that team better and put them in contention. So when you look at this from a player's perspective, if a guy, you know, he hasn't signed that big deal, Wilds, and he has his money, he doesn't have his money, then I can understand going to a losing situation. But if you have your money already, both of these guys signed huge contracts, why does this make sense for you? John Wall, how does this make sense for you? Russ, how does this make sense for you? So, Wilds, I don't understand. I think it's comical. It's a wash to me. It's a lose-lose situation.
Yeah, well, I think Russ wanted to just get out of Houston. And trying to debate whether or not he's the perfect fit with Bradley Beal is like debating whether the door that you're clinging onto as the Titanic goes down is comfortable enough. Doesn't really matter. Just get out and stay afloat. Now he's on a playoff team. He's reunited with Scott Brooks, Nick. And I think more than anything, we know he can't shoot. We know he's not the most efficient guy in the world, but he brings a certain, as Broussard say, doggedness to the squad of like a winning culture and just like full speed ahead all the time that I think would make Bradley Beal a better player.
Well, and let me respond to something Brandon said, which is why would either one of these guys want it if they're not going to be able to compete for a championship? Listen, Russ is one of my favorite players ever, and I like John Wall a lot as what he's done in the community in D.C. I think he's been unfairly maligned at times, and a healthy John Wall, people forget his last full healthy season, they not only won 49 games, they won a round in the playoffs, and they win 7 against Boston in round 2, and Wall averaged like 27 and 11 in that series, if I remember correctly. He was a really good player pre-injury. We'll see what he is post-injury. I say all that to say this, though, Jenna. There is no championship team that is trading for Russ or Wall, not at their age, injury status, and contract. It is impossible for those guys right now to get to a contender because a contender is not trading for one of those guys. And so I think at this point for Russ and Wall, on their current deals, it's trying to make the best of what could be mediocre situations. For Wall, he'll get to change his scenery for the first time ever. And for Russ, he'll get to see if it works with Bradley Beal and Scott reunited with Scott Brooks, as Wild mentioned, Jenna.
All right, could we talk about what this means, though, for James Harden for a second? Harden was rumored to be on the trade block all off-season. A report yesterday, the Rockets do not envision trading him before the season. Now they're going to stick it out, try to make it work, try to win with him there, obviously now with John Wall. So, Nick, what does this trade mean for Harden's future?
The Rockets are not trading James Harden before the start of the season. Maybe they trade him at the deadline if it goes bad. But do you know the only all-star caliber player that's been in the playoffs, that's played in the playoffs every year the last 8? It's Harden. Since he went to the Rockets, he's been in the playoffs every single year. He's the only guy in the league that can say that. My guy LeBron can't even say that. Giannis can't say that. KD can't say that. It's just Harden. So they're going to be a playoff team, and they are going to try to make this work, Brandon. Now, if it gets real bad, if they're playing terribly, could he be moved at the deadline? Possibly. But you are going to, once you saw that Drew Holiday was worth a generation of first-round picks and players, then the price of the brick went up, so to speak, to quote the great Marlowe from The Wire. So listen, if you're going to want James Harden, you're going to have to pay a hell of a lot more than a team like the Nets is capable of paying, Brandon, and I don't believe it's happening any chance whatsoever it happens before the start of the season.
Okay, so Nick, let's say that James Harden, he's still on that team when the season kicks off in a couple of days, right? A couple of weeks. All right, I think they find themselves in an amazing situation in the organization, but it's still terrible for the player. Like, this could potentially work. Now, both of these guys are ball dominant. They dominate the basketball. But I feel like the chain of command is just different here. The Russ and Harden relationship, it's like, who gets the last word in the locker room? Who takes the last shot? If our team is down by 15 and it's time for the superstar player to take over, who does that? Who dominates the ball, right? But now you look at this situation, Kevin, you got Harden. Everybody knows this is Harden's team. People already knew it was Harden's team.
Exactly.
But this isn't. This is a superstar and this is an all-star. So I think this could potentially work.
That's exactly right.
But then, Kevin, Nick, our buddy Nick, continues to neglect the player's perspective. James Harden wants out. This isn't John Wall. This isn't Russell Westbrook who's saying, oh, I just want to find a little better situation. I don't think a playoff team or a contender, will trade for me.
Right.
Well, James Harden wants to win. He has his money. The same thing I just talked about. He has his money. He wants to win. He wants out. So he can force his way out, and I think it gets really ugly no matter if they're in a good situation, which I think they will be before the trade deadline, or not.
Look, it would have to get really ugly for him to leave, but he should want to leave. He's 31 years old, Nick. He's not getting any younger. That championship window is closing. I think he looks around the West like, hold on, do we get better? We got John Wall and Boogie Cousins. This was cool like 4 years ago, but not right now. And by the way, he's basically already on a new team. He's got a new owner, a new GM. Yep. He's got a new coach. He's got new teammates, and he's got new offensive scheme. So he's basically on a new team. So, but he's just got the same uniform on. So like, I might as well actually go to a new team if I'm going to be on a new team.
Correct, but he also has 2 guaranteed years left on his deal before a player option. So if the new GM in Houston, Rafael Stone, if Harden says, hey, congrats on the John Wall trade, but to quote the great Magic Johnson, I ain't going to be here. If Rafael Stone says, all right, I got great news for you. We found a trade. A team's going to include a young star. A team's going to include a boatload of picks. I hope you enjoy looking at the real estate in Sacramento because we've worked it out. That's the only trade that meets our needs. You want to go there or you want to see how you and Wall work out? Because he does have the ability to force his way out. He does not have the